The Health Ministry will launch screening programs for the early detection of cancer. Soldiers' salaries will grow in the coming year, and a more stringent form of custody for controversial entrepreneur Marian Kočner. We have more details for you in the coming up minutes. Welcome to 24/7, the summary of the week news by the news agency of the Slovak Republic. The Health Ministry will launch from next year screening programs for the early detection of colorectal, breast and cervical cancer, aiming to detect the oncological disease earlier and thus increase chances for patient successful treatment. The cancer screening programs should also detect cancer in those who have no symptoms of the disease. Oncological diseases are currently the second most frequent cause of death in Slovakia. Examinations will be carried out at 30 selected workplaces. The Health Ministry has earmarked €5 million for the screening. Food inspectors of the Slovak Veterinary and Food Directorate have carried out more than 22,000 checks, of which 878 were targeted at Christmas seasonal food and found a total of almost 6,000 flows. Food inspectors checked warehouses, hypermarkets, supermarkets, small outlets, production operations, online shops, vending machines and packing plants, as well as marketplaces. The most common problems included poor hygiene of food sales and storage, food past the expiration date, incorrectly labeled products, neglected personal hygiene of staff and food contaminated by pests. There were 470 fines imposed worth more than €16,000. As many as 2,505 Slovak companies have left Slovakia since the beginning of this year, with most of them being bought by Czechs, Hungarians and Romanians. Czechs and Hungarians have long been most frequent buyers when Slovak firms are sold to foreign entrepreneurs. These countries have a territorial proximity to Slovakia as well as historical economic ties. Soldier salaries will grow in the coming year as the Defense Ministry is preparing new legislation to adjust the remuneration of professional soldiers, with the Defense Minister Peter Gajdoš saying that they want to make the occupation of professional soldiers more attractive. Soldiers' salaries in the new year should reach the average salary level in the national economy. According to the minister, they will grow in terms of valorization by 10% and after incorporating the planned changes by about an additional €300. Slovakia supported the United Nations Global Compact on Refugees at a session of the UN General Assembly in New York. Unlike the UN Global Compact for Migration, which stirred up resentment in various countries, including Slovakia, the non-binding document on refugees was adopted almost unanimously as 181 countries voted in favor and only the United States and Hungary voted against it. Trenčín Regional Prosecutor's Office has dropped charges pressed against 12 Greenpeace activists who climbed a mining tower at Nováky mine in protest against Slovak coal mining. According to the prosecutor's office, the activists didn't threaten any public service facility. The mining tower on which they hung a banner isn't used for transporting miners. It's used to lift extracted coal from the mine to the surface, and there is even another way to bring the coal from underground to the surface. Greenpeace went on to say that the criminal procedure against the activists hasn't been concluded completely, as the investigation will now focus on whether or not the activists, by their actions, jeopardized human life, health or property. Farmers affected by extreme drought in 2017, which resulted in as high as 70% losses in yields, will receive funds in January 2019, with Agriculture Minister Gabriela Matečná being given a mandate to start fixing the damage caused by the drought. For the time being, the money should come from the Finance Ministry. Farmers appreciate that the government has earmarked funds to compensate them for the drought. They need the funds urgently to continue their activities without dismissing employees. The first round of the presidential election is taking place on March the 16th and the second on March the 30th. More than 10 people want to join the fight for the presidential palace for the time being, including, for example, parliamentary vice chair Bela Bugar, scientist Robert Mistrík or political analyst Eduard Chmelar. Incumbent President Andrej Kiska has chosen not to run for re-election. Only those who meet the conditions set by law can run. Candidates must be Slovak citizens with permanent residence in Slovakia and must be aged at least 40. The unemployment rate in Slovakia stood at 5.09% in November, down by 0.14 percentage points from October. In November, the total number of job seekers was more than 171,000, while the number of job seekers immediately able to start work was almost 140,000. All regions reported a monthly drop in the unemployment rate, with Košice region showing the most significant fall. A specialized criminal court judge approved a motion lodged by a special prosecutor office's prosecutor to introduce a more stringent form of custody for controversial entrepreneur Marian Kočner out of concerns that he might suborn witnesses. The decision is not valid yet, as Marian Kočner has appealed against it. He faces charges of counterfeiting promissory notes, on which he based his €70 million claim against TV Markíza. The judge also approved a motion to extend the duration of Marian Kočner's custody until April the 28th next year. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget you can always find the latest news on newsnow.dasr.sk.